Good now, everybody, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show.
Good morning, the Rise Up Morning Show.
Ooh,
Well, nice little jingle.
isn't that great?
I've made a small coffee spill, so take it away, Evan.
Good start. Good start.
Well, whether you listen morning, noon, or night, this is the Rise Up Morning Show, your place for helpful news, for commentary, for answers to your crypto questions. I'm Evan. He's Will, and Alex is, now much cleaner than he was a moment ago. So
Just
welcome
a small
back.
oopsie.
Welcome back, Alex, and welcome back, Will. Good to see you back on the show, man.
Yeah, dude. Nice to be back. Getting back to some normalcy, which is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that for sure. And just in time to go see Hester tomorrow.
Hell yeah, dude. No,
Yeah,
I'm
What a way to
sure we all are.
what a way to get back started again.
Yeah, trial by fire.
Trial by Hester.
Trial by Hester.
Trial by Hester, yes.
No, it's actually just a trap. We're gonna walk in there and immediately just get like served papers for like being influencers.
Oh my God. I actually was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, what if her and Bill have looked at our platform in the time between agreeing to do the interview and the time they do it? And I don't know what they see that's going to make them change their minds, but that would just crush me. Although, wouldn't it be great to know if, I
Yes.
mean, you couldn't find from a better source, like, hey, you guys should think about ABC. That would be really helpful. If
Dude,
crushed.
and also knowing that one of the commissioners of the SEC has looked at our content feels like a decent endorsement that like we're not, grifting people.
No, it would just make me more worried. It would just make me more worried because then it would be like, this is how Gary Gensler got them. Hits them with the Hester Peirce first, thinking they're your friend, and then all of a sudden, wabammy.
Yeah, and like Alex said, it is flattering and tempting to think that Commissioner Peirce could be ending her career at the SEC in order to transition to her full-time job as a host of the Rise Up Morning Show.
I mean,
But
we'll let her know that there's a spot available.
Yeah,
if she,
hashtag diversity,
if she's
baby. Come on.
bored.
No, I think we need another white dude. It's gonna be
Probably.
Oh
I also
my God.
can't imagine that there.
Sorry,
I can't imagine there's any more prestigious Web3 postings available for a post SEC Hester. I feel like probably one or two entities wouldn't mind. Actually, I'm trying to think now because Will, one of the comments I made the other day for all of you guys was that obviously we were all familiar with Gary and we're all familiar with Hester. Can you name any of the other commissioners?
Well, ever since Gary Gensler, he was the reason why I started paying attention.
Sounds like stalling, Will.
Yeah,
Sounds
no,
like
I know.
stalling, William.
I
I'm
don't know any other-
100% stalling, dude.
I know-
I'm
I
looking
know
up that guy
no
who got
other
disappeared.
commissioner, and I know no one before Gary Gensler. So that's it. That's the truth. Is that what you wanted me to say? Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yeah,
He's
you
not
couldn't
even a
handle the
commissioner.
truth.
I mean, open question. Does anybody in the audience, and it's okay, we're all about to look it up right now, so be honest. Could anybody name any of the other 4 commissioners besides Hester Peirce?
John Elway.
Because I couldn't.
Shannon
Straight up.
Sharp.
I talk about this stuff every single day,
Tim
and I was like,
Tebow.
you know what? They've never made the news that I've seen.
Okay, I've got 2. I can't even find the third one. Has the guy who just left been replaced yet?
I didn't even know
Because there was a guy who just left with real short notice, and it might have been Jaime, but I don't think it was Jaime. It's more diverse there than the Rise Up Morning Show, which
A
is
little bit.
not
Not hard to do.
It's not hard to do.
Chair and commissioners. Okay, let's check it out.
Where-
Any last minute guesses in the chat? The chat has been suspiciously quiet, Alex, since you issued that challenge. Are you ready for me to start naming some names?
I was going to say, as I look at this list, one of them I do recognize, but I would not have known that I knew him because he was an SEC commissioner. So it doesn't really count.
Just like mentioned, kind of sidelined in an article or two that we read, probably.
Yep.
Yeah. The drum roll is, and the names are Gary Gensler, Hester Peirce, who is listed as number 2,
Kind of
rightfully so, at least, Caroline Crenshaw. That is at least familiar to me.
Yes.
Mark Oyeda.
Got nothing.
Hashtag
Okay.
spelling question mark. And Jaime Lizarraga. Lizarraga. I can't tell if
Oyeda.
it's Italian or if Jaime is. I'm so sorry, Jaime. Commissioner Jaime. I really, honestly, sincerely apologize to you.
Mark Oyeda is the other name that I was familiar with, have seen like written, but would not have been able to say like, oh yeah, SEC Commissioner.
Yes, and fun fact, of the 120 or so commissioners since the 1930s, Hester and now Caroline are one of only about 36 female commissioners. So they don't have as much of a diversity problem as we do on the show, but they do have room to grow.
You have hats and sometimes don't wear shirts. Alex has more tattoos than I do, and David, and I am pretty. So look at us go.
That's it, man. You hit the nail on the head, dude.
I do have a couple of tattoos, more than you.
Yeah,
just a smidge.
Yeah, so it's a whole. They have a whole family.
Anyway, we were kind of going over yesterday just a few of kind of the one thing that we wanted to say immediately was that like this interview slot, 45 minutes, is absolutely going to zip by. So we're kind of talking about, what are the things that are the most pressing to hear about? And of course, my top priority is asking things that have not been asked, like in front of Congress. There's no point in taking up time on our platform to do this and being given this opportunity to ask things that she has answered publicly on other shows before. So that's kind of what we're working on right now is, streamlining that list so that we hit the things that are important and then making sure that we ask them efficiently so that she has as much time to speak as possible. So I think, Evan, do you want to give us like a quick rundown of the list that we have, and then we can kind of.
Yes, I do, absolutely. And I'll say, if you have something that's not on this list, we'll tell you how to share that with us in a second.
Yeah.
But right now, here are some of the things that we're thinking about. I just closed my Discord. Well, let me tell you first how you can send them to us, and then when Discord comes back up, I'll tell you what they are. If you want to send us a question or comment for Commissioner Peirce to consider to add to the conversation, we'll think about it and try and figure out a way to get it in there. You can join our Discord server. It's totally free if you're not in there yet. It's discord.gg/riseup. It takes just a couple of clicks. You'll be in there. You can send it to the general chat. You can put it anywhere we might see it in the Discord. Or, of course, you can leave it as a comment on a video I did just a couple days ago, kind of collating and collecting these things that we're going to talk about with her. On the list that I have to discuss, as well as from all of y'all with some questions. Where we go, Discord.
While Evan is doing that, I also do have two tiny announcements. Number one.
Oh, please.
Although she's probably not awake yet. Today is Christina's birthday. The perfect sign.
Hey, all right, Christina. That's right.
And if you were curious about how old she is, she'll tell you she's in her late 20s to early 30s.
Not ideal. I meant your framing of that, Alex.
And because, so here's another test for you guys. I think since we're in crypto, it's more likely that you've heard of this. It's also my dad's birthday. Fun fact. They do share a birthday. Christina actually got me a present because that's just the way the world works. And she posted a video about it. So if you are one of the fortunate few that knows what her TikTok is, you've probably seen it already. But joining the ranks of bunches, we have another meme representative. Mudang. Mudang, the baby hippo.
Oh, I love that.
Gosh.
That's so good.
Wrong one.
As a new monster.
How good is that for real?
Dude, that is Christina.
Just
Just when I saw that video the other day, and just when I think she can't get any better at her craft, she just whips out something like that.
Well, she made that in like 30 minutes.
Oh my!
That's
Like,
crazy.
yeah.
She makes that in 30 minutes. I made a little narwhal. It took me 7 days, and I'm still not done with it.
I wish that I could show you guys. So she just entered a piece in the like city fair for the grand prize of $8. And
Whoa!
yeah, and she went and dropped it off yesterday. Her and all the other little old ladies dropping off blankets. And I will make a note to show you guys because it's absolutely insane. It's ludicrous. So that's what you're coming back to the show next week for, is to see what Christina put in the fair under the crochet category.
Very
We
cool.
will never financially recover.
Y'all
from
will
not
never
winning this
financially
game.
recover.
Well, happy birthday, Christina, and thank you for sharing, Alex. You can find Christina? I'm sure she might pop in later, and when she does, be sure to
Perhaps.
celebrate her.
Perhaps.
Okay, I've got a list of topics for Hester, and then
Yes,
as
let's
one
hit it.
commenter asked, we will talk about crypto,
We
even
will
though
talk
this
about crypto.
might arguably be one of the most crypto topics to talk about right now. So, first
It's
and
not about
foremost,
memes. You ain't talking about crypto.
you ain't talking about crypto. First and foremost, we want to talk about trust and the SEC, because the SEC has gone from being one of many government agencies to a sort of prominent character and villain in the crypto story. And she's been very vocal about her concerns that the agency is going to have a long road to building that trust back. So we want to talk about what that looks like. We want to talk about her advice to builders and everyday consumers who want to be compliant with what the state of regulation is while we're waiting for more helpful regulation. And we want to talk to her about some examples to pick her brain about her proximity to the industry, what she thinks blockchain might be cool for, what she wants to help pave the way for, without, asking her to name names about the tokens that Gary's investing in or anything like that. The potential of blockchain. We want to talk to her about navigating disagreement at the SEC because, as Alex pointed out, Gary drops an opinion, the SEC makes a ruling, and then almost immediately Hester's right there with the dissent.
Yeah.
How
Which
she
I thought-
Go ahead.
I thought of an exception because yesterday, one of the things that I noted as we talked about that was I wanted to know about, the workplace landscape of writing something and then the dissent immediately following. And I noted, of course, that it's not uncommon for that to be like the way that things work. If you look at the Supreme Court, every single time there is a decision, the dissent is also published. There is one major difference, though, that did not occur to me last night when we were talking about this, which is that when the Supreme Court writes a decision and then writes the dissent, it's not always the same people. Like the same justice does not dissent every time. And with this particular instance, every single time the SEC has litigated anything cryptocurrency related, Hester has written a dissent. And that is unique, just in the sense that it's always her. That's gotta set kind of a different tone. Is it just sort of like an understood thing that the rest of them are like, yeah, we're gonna Wells notice, everyone and their grandmother, and then Hester's gonna complain about it? Or is it more structured than that? What goes into the writing of a dissent? I'm very curious about that whole process, like the coming out against what the entity you represent just did publicly. And honestly, I mean, as we've seen with a couple of these things, they can be quite excoriating. So,
yeah, the dissent that she put forward in Congress, was the most
yes,
it was just pure being like, I hate him, he's dumb, and also bald.
No, but for real,
well said, he is also bald. Yes,
we've read dissents that were like, okay, she disagrees. We've read dissents that were like, God damn, and then we saw that panel of all of them, and it was literally like, Gary, I'm gonna ask you this question. He dodges it. I'm gonna ask you again. Dodge, ask, dodge, ask. Hester, throw him under the bus. And it was just like, that's also got to be strange. And interestingly, out of all of the current commissioners of the SEC, she has been there the longest by years.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
So she's the most veteran commissioner right now. Super
Yeah.
interesting.
So you had mentioned too, Alex, you both had mentioned really good points yesterday, about how we can apply some of these examples. Like as she talks about the industries that she's interested in, we can reference the different capacities we think blockchain will be used beyond financial speculation. And Will, specifically, you said about how cool it will be to get to see if her experience is reflective of, is she really as crypto native? What does she really know? Is it all political smoke and mirrors? The timing of it is interesting. You had highlighted so much stuff going on and so little time to talk about it. So my personal goal is that we have a great conversation and she'll say, wow, I can't wait to come back to the Rise Up Morning Show, and she'll do it again.
So, and she's like, and I would like you guys to be the official live show of everyone who beats us in court.
Interesting little sidebar, just because this is a hot topic right now. Gary's time at the SEC is notably limited. They all are. All of them have a term expiration. Actually, Commissioner Crenshaw is the next one to expire. Her term expires at the end of this year. I'm not sure. That's one thing that I do need to look up. I'm not sure exactly what like the re-up process is, if someone is brought back, or how that exactly works, if there are term limits. That's on my homework list for today. But just because I know that firing Gary is a hot topic, especially in this industry, and we have seen calls from staunch Harris supporters on the political side of the crypto fence and on the Trump side, just for Gary to be removed. And at this point, it sounds like, regardless of how you think he personally has like done his job, like you said, Evan, public trust in the SEC is at an all-time low, which is interesting also just because the public didn't give a shit about the SEC until a couple years ago. So it's also worth noting here that like the presence and existence of cryptocurrency as an industry has made the SEC relevant to a whole bunch of everyday people that would never have cared about the Securities and Exchange Commission before. Because think about it, they're not the only ones, right? There's the CFTC, there's the FTC, there's the FCC, there's the FAA. There's all of these other governmental agencies with a few letters. And no one really cares what any of them are doing, because the thing that they do barely affects any of your day-to-day lives. I care very much about what the FCC talks about, just because I have to create content within the legal framework that they have created. They
won't let you be. Won't let me be me.
They won't let me shill meme coins with no proper disclosures. Yeah. But I never cared about the FAA until I worked in aviation maintenance, and I had to know how all of the, filing, no flies and all that sort of stuff. Like, I didn't care at all about FAA regulations until I was flying, and the same is true about the SEC. And now as more people invest, more people care. It's become kind of mainstay. So they have like to give a shit about what people think about them, and they know that they are like center stage, and that's got to be weird. That really changes the dynamic of their job. I'm also very curious, like that. I think we have a note on the list, Evan, just about how odd it is to transition in a job in government that was not as public facing and is now just like one of the most heavily scrutinized by a larger section of the public than pretty much any other government agency outside of, the big ones that we all love to hate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And she also asked us to leave time to talk about, quote, American fundamental rights. So I'm curious to know what that is. And it makes me wonder, I think it's interesting, to Will's point about the timing of all this. Makes me wonder what her angle is. Like, she's granted us time. She's on this tour in the first place to talk to people. I wonder what she wants. What's in it for me? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, because as soon as Kamala Harris was gonna talk in Pittsburgh yesterday, I went, okay, first time Kamala Harris is going to talk about her crypto stance, and now we have our interview set up with Hester Peirce on Wednesday. Interesting timing. Interesting timing.
Okay, we have a lot of questions coming in, but before we leave this topic, I wonder, Alex, somebody noted that the commissioner can be asked to resign but not fired. Someone else asked, didn't you do a video about this?
Yeah.
Can we really quickly clarify what that process looks like?
Yeah.
the appointing or unappointing of an SEC chairperson or commissioner.
Yeah.
And
So
then I've got some questions noted for us.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. It's really important. And I want to just make the disclaimer here. All right, we're not doing just a quick aside for the chat. We're not doing candidate shilling. It makes me very angry. This is a bipartisan show. I don't need to start any arguments in the chat. There's people trying to learn here. They live on both sides of the aisle. That's why the show is cool. But the second we start bumper stickering each other in the comments, that's the minute that people start to get upset. So let's just avoid that, and then I don't have to mute anybody.
Unless it is Moodang or Pesto 2024.
Unless we are shilling Moodang and Pesto.
Moodang.
No need for an apology. No apology is necessary. It's all good. I just don't want to get us off course here. But no,
Sonoran. I'm being quiet. Smile face.
Yes, Sonoran, you are behaving today. I appreciate it. But yeah, no, it's a really good point, and not to belabor it or sit on it for too long, so we can move on here. But it is not as easy as just firing the chair of the SEC. Okay, the SEC, along with many other government agencies, exist outside of the immediate purview of the executive branch, and that is because that's how government works. You can't just have consolidated power in one person's hand, because then things get out of whack and that becomes more and more and more authoritarian. And that's not what we want. We don't like that. You may think that you are okay with that only because you're staring down the barrel of like your preferred person becoming the authoritarian, but that won't be the case forever. And you don't want that structure. It never ends well. And there are a gajillion countries around the world that we can point to demonstrate exactly how poorly authoritarian leadership ends up for everybody. So that is why agencies like the SEC exist outside of now, the president, of course, has influence. These people serve at the pleasure of the president, meaning that they get appointed. So there's a lot of influence there in saying, like, who would you like to appoint to what, when? And then they have term expirations where those things come up for review. But if you want to remove one before their term expires, if we want to fire Gary Gensler before 2026, when his term expires, you have to have cause, and it will be appealed and it will be litigated. And it's not a guarantee. You can't just fire him because you disagree with him. That's not how it works. If he does something specifically egregiously wrong, of course they can be removed for that. But unfortunately, and I say this as someone who does believe that he should be removed, unfortunately, he hasn't really done anything that can be pointed at specifically. Now, the closest case we could come to is that another great point that we, again, don't have to get super into, but I know we all talk about like the government selling their Bitcoin and stuff. Legally, the government has to sell their Bitcoin. They're not allowed to like strategically choose and pick which seized assets they get to keep and which ones they get rid of. There are rules about how they can sell them. They're supposed to sell things in a way that doesn't move the market, and there's just really no way to sell almost 70,000 Bitcoin that doesn't move the market, which is why they still have it. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this stuff. I don't know. We could obviously keep going, but I think that kind of gets the point across. So like, you know, we might, the closest case we have to firing Gary is that he has done things as the chair of the SEC that have moved the market in a way that could be considered like tampering, manipulation, whatever. I could see a case being made for that. And that would be about the only thing that I can think of, you know, like with a great dissent, the best dissent that I've ever read from Hester, which we will obviously bring up, is immediately following the Bitcoin spot ETFs. It was her big like state of affairs when she was like how dirty they did everybody by the way that they handled these ETFs, all that sort of stuff. Could have just sent it and gone, approved it as they should have been approved years ago. We would have been fine. But we didn't, and the markets were manipulated because of that. So that's kind of the angle. Like if you wanted to see, could a president fire Gary, regardless of whether or not it's one party or the other, still have to have cause. Anyway.
And you have a video on this that people can find in your profile, yeah?
I probably have a few, but I could do another. It's a video that has a bunch of other stuff in it. I haven't done like a specific one that's just like, hey, newsflash, you can't just fire the SEC chair for no reason. You have to have cause. So I could do that.
Okay. And then Travis, I saw in the comments, has one too. So check it out.
Sweet.
Find Travis's video. We appreciate you for sharing. If you want to share that, probably a great place to do it would be the Rise Up Discord server. We'd love to see it there and support you, man.
Yeah, dope.
Are you guys cool if we move on to a couple of these questions I took down here from folks?
Sure thing.
The first one I want to answer always is someone says, do you have any resources to help me learn about crypto? So take it away, guys. Resources to learn about crypto.
We should get some of those.
Yeah, we definitely should. Will is actively searching his apartment for them as we speak.
We do have lots and lots.
What do you got there, Will?
I would say a good place to start is
Oh,
the Bitcoin standard. You know, I think it's the best place to start. It's not going to teach you about trading. It's not going to teach you about investing. It's not going to teach you about altcoins, but it's going to teach you about the history of money and like how and why Bitcoin is important. I think that's the best place to start with fundamental knowledge. Be like, okay, like why is this actually valuable? And the reason why I like this book to start with is A, you get to learn about the reason why we're here in the first place, which is Bitcoin. But B, you get to read a book that says, hey, here's a cryptocurrency that is providing genuine value to the real world and real world problems. And it gets your mind thinking about like, oh, when I look at altcoins, I want to find an altcoin that can provide value to people in the real world, right? Which is oftentimes a thing that we don't look at for altcoins.
like those exist.
Investment, it's probably the first question you should be asking yourself. So the Bitcoin standard, I always never know how to say this author's name. It's like
I've heard him pronounce it himself as Safedin Ammous.
Safedin Ammous. I think it's a great place to start.
I agree. And if you also are a reader and you want another good place to start, this is the place to do it. I would say is Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. This is my personal favorite book to recommend. Chris Dixon is the lead investor, Web3 partner at Andreessen Horowitz, storied investment venture capital firm. And every time he speaks about blockchain, then a new block is validated or something like that. I don't know. An angel gets its wings. He just is so excellent at explaining it. And Read, Write, Own is named for the three eras of the internet he describes, with Web3 being the era we finally get to own what is truly ours because of blockchains, because of cryptocurrency. And you can also listen to Chris Dixon, I would say, is another good resource. Just if you're a podcast listener and you Google his name on your favorite podcast app, many of the conversations he's had will come up. All of them are helpful.
Yep.
Alex, what about you?
Yeah. Those are two really good ones. I don't know that I even have another book that I would necessarily add. Although there are a lot of like if you're more interested in just in the investing side, there's of course a lot of really, really great investing books that are not crypto specific, but that have lots of good philosophies. I'm not a huge investor, so that's not really my area of expertise. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a classic that I've heard a lot of times. I've actually never read the entire thing. I've read excerpts, but Robert Kiyosaki kind of grinds my gears sometimes. He just kind of strikes me like another, one of those people who just likes to say things because he's trying to have influence on the market, and he flip-flops, and he's hot and cold, and it's just I don't learn a tremendous amount from him. But as far as crypto stuff goes, really my number one is Coinbase's free learn platform. The reason that I will continue to harp on them, even though they have never paid us to do any marketing or promotion, which they absolutely should, is because it's free and you don't even need to make an account to look at it. You can literally just go to coinbase.com/learn and read all of their articles and guides and all of that good stuff completely for free without even needing to sign into the platform, which is honestly weird. And there's really good stuff there. And then the last thing I'll say is read white papers, not even just because you need to understand the specific white paper that you're reading, but because they're a really good place to get consolidated Web3 jargon that you can use as jumping off points to go figure out what is most important for me to learn and research and understand first. if you read the Bitcoin white paper, there's a lot of words that you're not going to recognize if you haven't looked at this stuff before. And that's exactly what I did. I read that white paper. I made a big list of every word I didn't know. I looked up every single one of those. And every single time I looked up one of those and it gave me another word that I didn't recognize, that's how I started the rabbit hole.
Yeah. And actually, the first book that got me into investing was by Tony Robbins. It was a what was it? Money, Master the Game, Master Money, Master the Game, something like that by Tony Robbins. And it's just like it just like teaches you like the power of investing was the biggest thing I took out of it. That was the first financial book I read. And then I started investing like the next week for the first time ever. I was in college.
Yeah. I've read that one too. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There are some surprisingly like cliche books that are fantastic.
Yeah. But for me, with my educational journey with crypto, I mean, it was YouTube and Twitter, you know, I followed a bunch of people, some were bad, and eventually found the good ones. And the most influential person for me for learning how to do my kind of altcoin research, if you've seen my altcoin videos, my altcoin deep dives, I do some deep dives on them. It was Coin Bureau. You can look up Coin Bureaus, like specific coin reviews, super in depth. And he was the biggest influence on me for really learning how to really analyze altcoins. And then from a technical analysis standpoint, I mean, I just kind of picked up little bits and pieces, like from watching Crypto Lark for years, little bits and pieces, some basic stuff, watching Data Dash, Nicholas Merton, and learning more about like macroeconomics from him. And then also I started getting into way deeper weeds by following Philocone. He was the top trader at Binance. And everything for him now is behind a paywall for the most part, but you can find him on YouTube. He posts videos every now and again, and you can find him on Twitter. He's incredibly advanced, and I listened to him for like maybe 3 months without understanding a word before it started to like sink in. And those were like the biggest influences on me. But I learned everything about crypto for free, other than a book here or there.
Yeah, me too, mostly. And mostly I would say through conversations with others and asking questions. And they would tell me, read this, try that, check this out. I think the secret sauce is find a community. It doesn't have to be ours, but we've crafted the Rise Up Discord community, the Rise Up morning show, all the different things that we do with that in mind, that you could get many different perspectives from many different people, learners at all levels of experience. That's literally, and well, maybe figuratively, depending on how you look at it, how you rise up. So
How
good
you
question.
rise up?
How you rise up. Come on over to my casting couch, toots. Let me tell you about Bitcoin. Okay, we had another question that'll save me
Yikes.
from myself here. Yeah,
Yikes.
exactly. Whoever wasn't behind the scenes or at the start of the show, Will made a casting couch joke. He's got a couch on his
Can't see it
camera.
on TikTok, but
Evan,
you
you're
can.
just going to keep making this worse.
Okay, listen.
Okay.
We had a question in the chat.
Evan,
Is
we're
it?
never gonna get a female Rise Up morning host now.
I know.
I'm about to fire both of you.
Oh, don't say that. Okay.
Will,
all right,
this is your
It
fault.
wasn't me.
You put the couch in the room.
It's so comfy.
Okay. Listen, we had a good question. Alex, can you hit these people with some swanky music in the background?
I was just about to say that's such a great idea.
That is such a great idea. Let's get some swanky music in the background. Is it too late to buy SUI? Someone asked, and I want to kick it to you guys with the caveat just to say, usually, by the time all your favorite influencers are talking about a token, and usually when it's common in the comments on the TikTok lives you hang out in, and usually when the chart has been really green for a long time, I would say too late may be the wrong word, but not the right time, almost certainly. I just made a video about how to, as you're researching whether or not to buy, how to think about price targets, what the price is now, what it could become, how to determine that, and why that's an important consideration. I won't belabor it here. I think we can focus more specifically on the question or anywhere else you guys want to take it, because you both have given really good advice on this. Will, what was your strategy last week when people asked this question, is it too late to buy SUI?
So I'm chuckling right now because Jessica joined too. I'm just joining. What the hell?
Oh no. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, our female audience.
you gotta remember that there's always someone who like just popped in right when you say the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're welcome, because that's what a great way to start the show for you. We're talking about SUI, or were we talking about SEI in this instance? It was SUI.
We're talking about SUI in this
Yeah,
instance.
so here's the strategy. Everything Evan said is accurate in terms of if you're seeing everybody and their mother talk about a coin, odds are you missed like obviously the ideal time to get in, right? But that doesn't mean there's not an opportunity there. You could wait for a buy opportunity, but see a dip in SUI, buy in, and get some gains out of it for sure. I'm pretty damn bullish on SUI also, but there's a second step that the people who find the 30x, the 40x, the higher up, those investors, they take after that point. So, and I've gotten two 100x's in my life now, and a lot of those times, both those times really, I followed trends. But in this instance, you take a look at SUI, and you see that SUI's going up like crazy. It's super, super hot. And SUI is a platform cryptocurrency. It's an Ethereum-like, it's a Solana-like, it's an Avalanche-like. It has other altcoins being built on the SUI platform. You'll have your meme coins, you have some decentralized exchange coins, you have all these different categories of altcoins being built on the SUI platform. So if the SUI platform is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, there's more and more and more money that can easily slip into those other altcoins. So what the strategy I made my video on was go to DeFi Llama. It's a site where you can track where the money in SUI is flowing. It's not SUI specific. DeFi Llama, you can use it for any cryptocurrency, right? But you go to SUI and you can see where users are going, where users are taking their money. In that video, I highlighted two DeFi protocols where money is clearly going to. It was Cetus and Navi protocol were the two. And I said, if you're hot on the SUI ecosystem, you're probably hot on the key pieces of infrastructure within its DeFi environment. And these are the two top winners right now. They could be coins worth looking at. And by the time, when I posted video, they were both below $40 million market caps. Actually, I'm curious. I didn't look to see, when I mention coins now, they pump. And so I'm curious to see if...
Are you trying to tell me that the inverse Watson is dead?
Well, the inverse Watson was accurate for maybe about 6 weeks. Since then, I've been pretty damn spot on, baby. So inverse Watson people, I want you to make money, but also, ha!
Just
while Will's looking that up, be a little bit extra cautious if you're buying stuff today, because it's an extremely green day. Bitcoin is pushing up towards 66,000 right now.
Yeah, and I think it's actually going to go above it.
It's bringing things with it. So, I like today's a day that I personally sit out. But if you do, just maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your profit taking if it continues to go up.
So Navi protocol is still at a $33 million market cap, and Cetus is load at a $52 million market cap. So since I mentioned Cetus is up probably about 20%. It's down 12% on the day, which makes sense. So Cetus looks like it may be stronger than Navi protocol right now, which is interesting. But yeah, but that's an example, right? You could have looked in when I made the video and go, okay, cool. I'm hot on SUI. These are both key pieces of SUI. Maybe I take, let's say you have $1,000, 500 in Cetus, 500 in Navi. Your Navi would be even. Your Cetus would be up by roughly 20% right now at this point. And then, if one of those ends up being the clear winner, like if Cetus keeps going up and Navi protocol stays low, then you can take that Navi, and when Cetus comes to have a cool off, you can put it into Cetus and continue to ride that until you hopefully take all your profits off the table. And yeah, that's that second step that veteran cryptocurrency investors make, who are used to finding those 20x's and above. And sometimes it doesn't work out, right? Like I made videos on Toncoin before Telegram CEO got arrested, and before Toncoin's network started going down a little bit and suffering from issues. And Toncoin's ecosystem super hot. And you had two coins that were key pieces of its DeFi infrastructure, but like they didn't really pop off because unfortunately Toncoin lost its momentum with some issues because it was too closely tied to Telegram, and Telegram got in trouble, right? So like it's not a foolproof strategy. The further just because it's a good strategy does not mean it is devoid of risk. In fact, it is riskier than just investing in SUI, right? But risk, more reward, less risk, less reward, right? It's just something you have to continuously ask yourself if you're okay with and find a balance.
I mean, very well said. Alex, if you didn't have an immediate follow-up, can you tell us one more time the difference between SUI and SEI? Because someone asked, would you rather invest in SUI or SEI? And I still need your video to tell the difference.
It's okay. They are not related in any way other than the fact that their ticker is only one letter off.
And I constantly confuse them.
Yeah, it's okay. The
you,
thing,
you and all of us.
Really, the thing to remember is that SUI is trying to be a general purpose, fast and cheap blockchain ecosystem, whereas SEI is way more focused on being a DeFi exclusive ecosystem. And that could change too, because that's how Solana started. And now look at where Solana is. We would all call it general purpose. But really the only notable difference is that they both use a different consensus mechanism, a different method for validating that the blockchain is doing what the blockchain is supposed to be doing. I have a video, I think I posted it yesterday, that breaks down, either I posted it yesterday or I'm about to post it here when the show is over, that breaks down SUI's consensus mechanism, which is called Narwhal and Tusk. Exactly like the narwhal and its giant tusk.
Which is fantastic.
Why is it called that? Nobody knows. Literally no one knows. It's anybody's guess. You can say whatever you want about why we called it Narwhal and Tusk. We are large LARPs because we won't mention pork. So guys, with no prior context, pork is another shitcoin that you can gamble on if you're feeling frisky and potentially losing your money. There you go, pork.
There you go.
Fun fact, I held some pork once upon a time.
Amen. There you go.
I no longer hold it.
Well, there you go, pork. And that's just bullshit. Have a fantastic day. And then SEI's consensus mechanism is an open order book, which is basically just a method of running transaction confirmation and transparency to help prevent people from getting front run quite as much without having to use third-party software to do the trading. The whole thing is published and open and anybody can look at it, and it lets you set your trades accordingly. Of course, if you don't pay attention to it, you can still get front run because not everyone's watching it. That's really it. And as I said in the video, the difference honestly doesn't matter. It would just be more of a DeFi versus general purpose and who's getting more attention. And every blockchain is trying to be fast and cheap. So neither one of them is unique in that sense. SUI's got a little bit more going for it on the gaming side. They're releasing this handheld console. SEI doesn't have one of those, but SEI's got other stuff going on with their...
Yeah, that handheld console thing seems cool.
Yeah, they're cool. And I've talked about it extensively because I think it's really cool. And I also think it's a little bit concerning because these things are so expensive and you can get Will, do you know what the thing is called? It looks like a Game Boy and it's basically just an emulator and you can play a shitload of games. It's like a retro handheld gaming console. But there's tons of iconic
I don't know
games.
What it is.
An
I don't know
Abernick.
what it is, but my last roommate had it, and he got it modded even further, so it has 900 games on it.
Yeah, no, I want to say the brand is called Abernick. Thank you, Nick. It is like a sixth of the price of SUI's handheld game console. So what does that tell you? These things are way too expensive, and SUI's is 3 times the price of Solana's, and Solana's PSG1 or whatever it's called is literally still 4 times as expensive as an Abernick, which is insane.
Damn.
And I think that given the way that the saga set the stage with a bunch of airdrops, I think that people are going to continue for the foreseeable future of upcharging people for these devices that will not really be that great, just because they're capitalizing on the fact that meme coins are going to airdrop to the people who pre-order these things for publicity. And maybe that'll work out and maybe it won't. I think that the saga set an unfortunate precedent that we're going to have to break at some point, and that's probably going to look like a disappointing break, but also like it's cool because we're buying things instead of just investing in things. So I want the devices to just be things that we're cool with buying and then like not expecting to pay us back, which would mean that we don't have to call them all failures because we don't like triple our money that we buy the thing for. So we'll see. And we got a long way to go. We're just kind of starting to get started with the whole, you know, crypto native devices and stuff.
Yeah, we really are. Sony has entered the chat. Travis was saying, so like, if anybody's going to do a device, that would be friggin' cool.
That's the other thing to consider is that Sony's got the infrastructure, the hardware, and the network strength to do a way better one. And imagine if they
cost effective.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine if Sony through PlayStation does a crypto related PSP using Sonium stuff that has access to the entire PlayStation network. It will
I just got chills, honestly.
Evan's pretending he's played video games before.
Listen, the first gaming console I ever owned was a Sony PlayStation. Thank you very much. I have tremendously deep nostalgia for the days of PS1 gone by.
Evan, on a scale of 1 to this.
Don't leave me in suspense. Come on now. Come on.
It's funny. I still have my old original Game Boy coloring Game Boy black and white ones too. They're like worth some money now.
It's nerd show and tell. And if anyone in the chat knows what this is, you're cool.
I don't know what it is. Where is it?
Anyone?
What is it? Is it a Roomba?
Yes, Evan, it's a Roomba. This is.
I still can't tell. It's too dark.
It's a ballistic suit. It's basically a Pelican case with a 1080p HD TV in it and all of the hookups that you need to run a video game console. And you can put the console right there. So I had this like for my Xbox One and a PlayStation 3, and I could take it on the boat. So on deployment, this is how you game everywhere. This is how you LAN party. Everyone has a suitcase.
That's awesome. So
that's kind of cool.
Boat. So only on a boat can you still have the Halo LAN parties.
Oh yeah, we had many LAN parties deployed in the middle of the ocean.
Man, to be you, Alex.
You're speechless. I know.
I'm speechless.
You're like, cool. Evan's like, yes, I also see value in this.
I missed that boat. Okay. We do have a couple more questions, and if you are a crypto curious person,
Thanks,
or you
guys.
want to talk to, you know, if you got a gaming question, if you got a crypto question, if you've got a question about anything at all, but we probably can give you the most value on those things. We would love to hear it. And one of the questions that we had that maybe is a quick rapid fire one is I've seen a couple times, is Landwolf on Solana dead? I would just say, man, the longer a meme goes on, the more likely it is to die. And I don't have a chart read on that, but isn't that the one that our friend Blockchain Boy just lost his whole bag on, and it's been dead for a while in the water?
Yeah, he had a not so good time with that. But I haven't looked at the chart in months, honestly, so I have no idea what it's looking like right now. I'm now.
I haven't paid attention to it because it's mostly left the attention circle. I don't hear people talking about it. I never bought it.
Let's see, am I looking at the right one? No, that's a $61 million market cap. That can't be right.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It might be right.
Let's see.
61 million sounds about right from where it was. It was up, and that would be down for Landwolf. It was hundreds of millions. It might have been close to $1 billion.
That's what I thought. It was hundreds of millions. No, I think that's the right one. I'm pulling up Landwolf on Coin Market Cap.
Yeah, then that's got to be it.
The largest one. But I don't know if that's the one because there's so many copycats.
Yeah, I think that's it though. I think 61 million sounds about right.
That's a $62 million market cap, and since September, I mean, it's up a substantial amount. It's like about 4x since the beginning of September.
Okay, but
Right.
do a zoom out on the chart and tell me, does that look like what some meme coins do? Because some meme coins will do this thing where they're just, setting lower lows, lower highs, and they're dying. And then they bounce once right before the very end. And you can actually, if you time that well, you can make, a 3x pretty predictably on a pump like that.
No, I mean, it looks pretty solid. It looks like the Matt Fury coins are rebounding in a fairly healthy way.
Oh, that's interesting. So maybe if you're paying close attention to this, it might be a good time for you to buy back in, or are we past the point? Are we looking for a reconsolidation?
What this tells me here is, I want to get rid of this. What this tells me here is that there is still a ton of interest in Matt Fury coins that have a large market share of social media, presence, right? So that shows me strength. And then when we take a look at Bitcoin, and we zoom out a bit on the weekly time frame, we see Bitcoin on the cusp of breaking out of a bull flag that will send us to $90,000. So that would tell me that Land Wolf, as a meme coin in a hot trend within Solana, a hot ecosystem showing strength right now, should go up in value is what it's telling me.
Oh, hang on, Will. Not Land Wolf, Land Wolfina. Land Wolfina. He got himself a little girlfriend.
Land Wolfina?
This
how do I
is a
spell the
gross
Fina part?
misrepresentation.
Spell it INA, like Aquafina, but Land Wolfina.
Well, my computer has literally frozen trying to do this. INA. I got nothing on CoinMarketCap. It's probably on CoinGecko.
Or maybe it just hasn't hit it big yet, but when it does, we'll tell you about it. That's wild. Land Wolfina. Fina, baby. That could be a trend. We need a Vitalica token.
Not that Land Wolfina is not just like super pressing and important. But there was a genuinely like super good question.
Yeah, we have some of those too.
That rolled
hit
in.
it, brother.
Someone asked, let me scroll because now it's buried. Where'd it go? There we go. How can countries adopt crypto or use blockchain technology, in particular in the third world?
The first thing I would say is,
Are we going to say the same thing?
well, no, we're not, because I will commit to you that I'm not going to do it. So maybe it'll be the second thing I'm going to say. What are you going to say?
I was going to say USD stablecoins.
God damn it.
God damn it.
I knew we were going to say the same thing.
That was
because it's
exactly
such
what
a
I was
good-
going to say.
because it's such a good answer.
I will absolutely die on this hill.
Yeah. Tell him why, Alex.
High velocity and quick peer-to-peer access, uncensorable access to the US dollar across the entire planet. We are seeing a tremendous rise in that being a thing. There was a very interesting article that we actually covered on the show a couple weeks ago about the exponential rise as examined in one small case study in Nigeria, about people doing exactly that, using USDC to get access to a currency that they could actually comfortably and confidently keep to pay for their stuff amidst, there are some people who think that we are experiencing rough inflation in the United States. You have no idea what hyperinflation looks like.
Yeah.
Bad it is elsewhere.
Like we're floating in the twos. There are countries that are in the multiple hundreds. So have those people getting quick and easy access that their government cannot interrupt and steal from them to the US dollar is fantastic, because that's one of the biggest issues with sending financial aid to countries like this. A lot of the time it gets intercepted and stolen by governments, warlords, and other bad people.
It's good.
USDC is
don't
dope.
Change the system. Keep it the same. Also, do you see that TD Bank got fined $3 billion for setting up money flows for the cartels?
Yes.
Dude. Yeah, Alex sent me the video. It's wild.
Nary a
don't worry,
cryptocurrency in sight.
It's crypto's fault. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, but let me go back to Brad Sherman. Crypto is just for criminals, and we don't use the dollar for crime. Give me a fucking break.
Little old Brad is a dumbass.
God, that sound will never not be relevant, Devin.
Well, until he's out of office.
even after office, he'll be an idiot in retirement too. I have every confidence in him to continue being an absolute dipshit for the rest of his life.
Will, what
boy.
about you? Do you have a favorite example of how cryptocurrency blockchain infrastructure can help people in the developing world?
Well, I mean, it's remittance payments. Payments is payments. It's remittance payments. So, you know, you let's say you work in country A, you know, maybe maybe you're in Europe, maybe you're in one of the wealthy cities in the Middle East, maybe you're in Asia, maybe you're in the United States, right? And you're from a less developed country. Remittance payments is when you work and earn money in one country and then send it back to your home country where your family is. Remittance payments. If you have USDC, before stablecoins, Bitcoin was the best for it, but now stablecoins way better for it. So, you know, if you're using something like Base or Solana, you know, you're paying fractions of a penny to send the money you want to send to your families and loved ones back home as you work to support them in a country that gives you a higher paycheck. As opposed to what you could do today by going through Western Union, MoneyGram, a few other services, right? Where there's a much larger middleman fee. So as you try to send like $100, you know, they might take 15 or 20 of those dollars, something like that. Just I don't remember the exact cost, but you know, it's a sizable amount, even if it's 10%, you know, of the middleman fees you're paying, and it takes maybe 1, 2, 3 days to get there, as opposed to using USDC where 90 of your $100, $99.99.5 of it gets to your family. That's, you know, 10% more money going to your kids or your cousins or your wife or your husband or your parents who are back home, right? So that's a huge benefit in the world of people within developing countries, outside of just inflation protection.
Alex, I feel like you have stuff to touch on here too, but I'd like to touch on this because they specifically asked for health, because there are a lot of health opportunities in the developing world. And I would say the first few that come to mind are making data more verifiable, transparent, and less extractive. What I mean by that is health data is valuable. You need to have information about the people you hope to serve, whether you're looking to study a particular demographic based on their age, based on a condition they might have, or based on where they live, in order to determine how to treat them most effectively, in order to figure out which medicines work best. And a lot of these processes right now, gathering data, running clinical trials, administering insurance, all the stuff we do with our medical data, even writing a prescription or verifying that a prescription is valid, is stuff that can be innovated and improved on by adding blockchain. I mean, imagine if this is not just like if you're walking, you get a cryptocurrency token that you can sell for cash, or like you're drinking water, you get a crypto token to sell for cash, not stuff like that. But you could have, if you determined by looking at people's data on a blockchain, you could see, first of all, you could verify that each person giving data was a person. You wouldn't need to know their name. You wouldn't need to, have their email address and sell it to marketers. You could verify all kinds of information about them and then use that information to make decisions that could reward them in other ways, by giving them tokens and non-fungible tokens, by connecting them with healthcare providers, by connecting them with others like them, support, and then just by improving the other kinds of services they access. That's like super high level. I just made a video a little while ago where I'm eating in my car. It's nighttime, and I talk about some models for what that could look like. But Alex, what are you thinking when it comes to healthcare? And Will, feel free to jump in there too, certainly.
So my next answer after stablecoins could touch healthcare. It's healthcare tangential, but it's not necessarily like dedicated healthcare. We've also seen this happen a couple times in Africa specifically, is just protecting important documentation by putting it on chain and minting a token to represent it. We've seen it with student transcripts, because when schools get shut down, burned, destroyed, whatever, and students have to relocate, they often lose all of their academic achievements. That's just one example. But important records, I mean, the deeds to your property, it's very common that lots of people in the developing world in the third world do not have paperwork or documentation to prove that their property is their property, even if their family has lived there for generations. And so the ability to, again, without requiring the government to hold it for them, give someone the ability to mint a token that represents the thing that they're trying to protect. And then even if they relocate or they become a refugee, they will be able to take like that information with them securely on chain, and at least have something. It may not help. Like, it's worth noting this is not a perfect solution, but when you then go back to your home country, you often have no recourse to prove that like this was actually my property. This can solve that.
And it's not the kind of thing that requires mass adoption, or like, you know, everybody's using. You could do this with smartphones right now, and you could start with
mass adoption.
You could start with a simple, you know, database of medical records or insurance claims, and then expand it to like telemedicine, and use it to scale like the supply chain of a pharmaceutical company. I mean, a startup could, and I'm sure there are startups tackling this problem. Isn't Cardano interested in doing a lot of stuff in
they were, and I haven't seen them talk about it at all. They already started. They literally did it. They on-chainized an entire school systems student transcript like database, and then I never heard anything else about it. But no, it is absolutely worth noting, Evan. It's a very important point that this does not require mass adoption, because again, we are aware and we're saying up front that, like, you know, being able to prove that this is your house by showing documentation that is, you know, irrefutably accurate does not necessarily guarantee that whoever stole your house from you is gonna be like, oh, cool, I'm out. But you at least have some kind of recourse, and it's better than nothing. And it's a very good and very important first step. And in order to get to mass adoption and scale, you have to set the precedent, which means that you have to start doing this thing, and then it evolves from there.
Well said. Will, what about you? I saw you respond to a question there in the comments.
Yeah, it was a really good question I liked a lot, which was, if Bitcoin becomes the global reserve currency, what happens to the dollar? Like, will the dollar remain relevant or something? I forget the exact question, Sean, but there was something along that line. And what I would mention here is, if Bitcoin does become the Bitcoin reserve currency, that won't happen for a long time. Bitcoin will have to get to a point where it's really not that volatile, because most of it has been bought up, right? So it'll take time to get to that point where it could be a candidate for that. But let's say that happens. And here's an example. Gold was the reserve currency of the world at one point, and today gold is more valuable than it ever has been, right now in this moment. So just because gold becomes the world reserve, or excuse me, Bitcoin were to become the world reserve currency, doesn't mean that there isn't a place for the dollar in the world of commerce. In fact, if Bitcoin is the world reserve currency, odds are USDC is doing phenomenally, which means the dollar is going to remain really, really, really strong. And also, if the United States remains the hegemonic power in the world, hegemonic means like you're the number one empire. You know, you're the top dog. You're the biggest influence in the world.
Hegemony would have been a great name. Hegemon for a Pokemon.
It would have been
like a dominant Pokemon.
A hedgehog type thing, yeah. It would have been, and maybe it will be still. And so, like, if the United States is still the hegemonic power of the world, then the dollar probably remains the world's strategic reserve in that scenario. But if not, the dollar would still be heavily used within commerce. But instead of the dollar, it would be USDC probably, because again, it's faster, cheaper to send. You know, then maybe there'll be some Bitcoin scaling solutions that make Bitcoin faster and cheaper, kind of like a USDC. But you know, probably that's just less likely, right? That's a what if scenario. So I would say the dollar would still remain relevant. Like, other currencies are still relevant today, like the euro, even though it is not the world reserve currency, right? So it's not like the dollar would go away.
And do you think
that's not an empire that you can crumble?
Yeah, and do you think that, like, even if Bitcoin became a world reserve currency, that we would necessarily be spending it all the time, every day? I don't think so, for a lot of different reasons.
No, I don't think so. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, right? Like,
yeah.
What is the purpose of a world reserve currency? It's just trying to have like stable financial setting available in the global financial system, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you're using it as commerce, right? You don't have to be. The reason why people use the dollar for commerce is because it is seen as safe and strong and not inflationary as compared to other ones, but also because the United States empire, because we are an empire, pushes it onto people to maintain our own influence. But it's mutually beneficial in the sense of the United States gets to prop up the dollar in our financial empire, and people get access to a currency that's not super inflationary, with the caveat of now the U.S. empire has influence within your country, right? Because you're using the dollar, right? So it's a give and take.
It's definitely a give and take. Will, since we haven't had you on the show in a minute, we haven't had a chance to talk to you about much of the macro stuff that's affecting crypto. And I would love to give you the floor to say, Bitcoin's been up. We're having a green moment. What are the things you're looking at the rest of the week? I know you're bullish on what's going on towards the end of the year, potentially. You're looking at, maybe a $90,000 Bitcoin is where your target is, and you're buying stuff again. Give us the scoop, man.
Can I just really quick before Will does the whole thing? There was a fast question. Neil, really interesting question. The question was just how many blockchains do we really need? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it whatever?
Totally.
There's a concept that I encourage everyone to do a little bit of research into to just sort of familiarize yourself with the term, because this is about to get way more popular. I posted the coinbase.com/learn article about it in the general chat just now. It's called blockchain or account abstraction. And it's really, really, really interesting. So I would recommend, if you're interested in trying to tackle the question internally, like how many blockchains do we really need? How likely is it that any of these things succeed? Are we just going to end up with one eventually? I would say no. Personally, I think we will end up with hundreds, if not thousands of them. And that account abstraction is probably the way that we will all interact with them. This is a tale that I have been hearing from infrastructure and network engineers that build these things for years and years, is the idea of account abstraction. So, Will, I don't want to derail the whole thing. I don't really know a tremendous amount about like the technical specifics of it, but that article is a great place to get started with like the concept.
Okay. Well, no, that'd be cool. And I think you're totally right. Like, because the thing about it is we have a lot of blockchains now.
Yeah.
But that's just within our own echo chamber, right? Like, we haven't seen corporate adoption, right? We've seen 100%. Sony's playing with it. Disney's been playing with it. Like, major companies have their little side projects, right? Yep. But we have not seen adoption of blockchain technology at any degree when it comes to mass adoption. Not at all. Not even close.
We're not even.
I think L2s and L3s are going to be plentiful. I think Ethereum might scale one day, but I think corporations are going to want their own chains. I think apps are going to have their own chains. It's going to be much more before it gets much less, if it ever does.
Yeah. Never forget, 100%. Before we can have any mass adoption, we need mass interest, and we are not even at large interest yet. So like when people say we're early, like I know it's a buzz phrase, but it happens to be accurate. Not accurate in the sense that like we're early, buy my shitcoin, but like just accurate in the sense that like the whole landscape of this industry is going to change tremendously over the next decade. Anyway, Will, take it away.
Hit us with that update, Will.
So what we have for this week is on Thursday, we have another weekly update on jobless claims data. Expect those numbers to, again, like last week's, be heavily inflated because of the damage from the hurricanes. And if you noticed, last week we got that data and we had a dip in Bitcoin, and that was a fake out. And I saw a lot of people being like, oh no, the jobs report is bad. And I was like, yeah, the jobs report is bad because it's inflated. It's not an accurate representation of the economy. It's because we got hit with 2 natural disasters in a row, right? So it shouldn't keep markets down. And lo and behold, it didn't, right? We popped. We're doing great at the moment. For this week, Thursday, we get that jobless claims data. So expect that to be inflated. Expect that to be another potential bull trap, or bear trap, I should say. What am I saying? Yeah, bear trap. Where the markets take a dip because they see a larger jobless claims report, and then the markets, boom, pop off and try to liquidate people. That's 100% what I expect to happen there. The bigger piece of data, though, on Thursday is U.S. retail sales data for the month of September will come out. A lot of people will be looking at to see if people are still consuming. The United States is a consumption-based economy, the largest in the world by far. So if the United States consumer is not consuming still, which we have been, then numbers could dip. I am expecting those numbers to, again, be a little negative, but not because of what's happening in the economy, because of the hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
Because of the devastation throughout the entire Southeast. People lost the entire towns. People are not in a position in many parts of the country right now to be spending money. And before, people were still able to do so despite the impact of inflation. And so I don't expect that to change. We haven't seen that trend change, but we've seen natural disasters. So again, this Thursday, I'm expecting some data to come out that's going to cause markets to take a dip, and it's going to be another bear trap. And then markets will pump because these numbers are going to be bad, not because of the shape of the economy, but because of natural disasters, right? So it'll that's what I'm expecting this Thursday. In terms of other macro things, we have seen the Chinese economy really slipping and sliding over the past.
I have heard people refer to this as the potential final boss of Q4 for the crypto cycle, what China does.
Yeah, but they've already announced what they're going to do. And I think it's perfect for us. It's perfect for our Q4. We want to see China's economy continue to slip and slide a little bit. And they've already announced today that they're injecting like a ton of more money into their bonds market specifically, something like an additional, I think 500 billion Chinese yuan again into their bond market. So China's economy from a trade standpoint, from their real estate market, everything except for the gold market right now in China is really weakening, unemployment going up and up and up and up, particularly amongst young people. It's really bad. But about a week ago, China announced the largest Chinese stimulus package ever by a wide margin. I made a video on that too. You can go check it out. And just today they announced, hey, we're going to pump more money into it. And when they announced last week, they said, hey, this crazy stimulus package we've just done, we're going to, if it's not enough, we'll do it again. And if it's not enough, we'll do it again. And that's what they said. They said, we'll keep doing it until our economy recovers, which is going to be horrific for inflation in about 2, 3, 4 years down the line. It takes time for inflation to affect. The Chinese yuan is going to get inflated to a crazy level, but they view it as a necessary evil right now to maintain the health of their economy. But that's great for us in the crypto space because stimulus means liquidity rises more aggressively, which means more money to flow into crypto, particularly because there's a ton of rumors that are floating around. We'll see if they ever come true of China unbanning Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies on mainland China and enabling them to invest in the ETF products. And that would cause people to dive into Bitcoin like crazy in China, for those of them who aren't already, right? Because there are ways around it. But, so that would be a huge moment. So seeing the Chinese economy weaken, normally, very bearish thing for us in the crypto space. But since the stance of the Chinese government is just saying we will do unprecedented amounts of money printing for as long as we need to, that's actually a good thing for us. And eventually it will lift up their economy, but it's a double-edged sword. It's a very pointy double-edged sword they're playing with.
Man.
And that's where we find ourselves in now. And then within the United States, just keep your eyes on retail sales data, keep your eyes on unemployment data. Once things normalize after the hurricanes. And that's about it. Otherwise, the SEC will continue to cut rates eventually. Keep your eyes on inflation, because inflation in the last report was
The Fed.
so, and, you want to see inflation continue to come down so that the Fed can continue to cut rates. And that's it. But we're in a pretty good spot right now from a macroeconomic standpoint. There aren't many big problems on my radar screen at the moment.
Well, man, we really missed having you be able to speak to the bigger picture. When people asked us econ questions, we mostly just said, well, there is an economy. And when we'll get back, we'll tell you about it. So
We do
I haven't
live in
had to
an
pay
economy.
attention to it in years, and even less since you've gotten here. I love hearing. I learned every time you open your mouth, Will. I really missed you, man.
I missed you guys too. I just saw one comment where it was China having issues helps the states. Was that, it was you, Alex.
Yep.
I disagree. So China having issues is both good and bad for the states. It's bad because China is our second most important trading partner in the world. Number one's Mexico, actually, everybody, by a wide margin. Like, it's not even close.
Especially
Mexico
ours.
is by far and away the number one trade partner. In history, there is no trade relationship more plentiful than the relationship between the United States and Mexico. But if China gets a sniffle, right, they have a very, very expanding middle class, and that middle class loves to buy Western goods because Western goods are seen as more flashy, right? It's more of a status symbol. It's seen as higher quality. So there goes a huge demand from international trade, particularly from people who buy from us. Now, it is good in the sense that China's weakening economy forces China to restrict the sites that they have for territorial expansion, right? Because China's historically, I'm a history buff. Historically, the only thing that can stop China is China itself. It is a massive country with an incredibly diverse population, even if you don't necessarily think about it that way. It is very diverse. And China's biggest problem is civil wars, historically speaking. So if China's home ground isn't solid, then China cannot expand. That means Taiwan, that means China's potential attempts to land grab from India, potential land grabs from Russia as well, as Russia continues to weaken.
I mean, Will, in this vein, it's worth noting, like, when you compare it, because I often forget this little tiny tidbit that, like, China is one of the world's oldest civilizations. Like,
oh yeah,
recorded history in China is multiple millennia long. And when you look at, like, the United States, we're batting with like a couple hundred years. So, like,
babies.
it's bonkers to compare the two.
Yeah.
You just never think about it. It's like a 5,000+ year old country.
Yeah, it's
Literally
wild.
dynasties.
Yeah. It's nuts. But like, so that's the thing. When you see China have a weakening from their economy, it's good and bad for the United States, right? Because they're both our friend. They're a very good friend. At the same time, one of our biggest rivals, if not our biggest, right? So,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, people and creatures of all ages, it's about that time for us to take our dogs and ponies off into the sunset. But before we do, we want to get your final thoughts, your questions, suggestions, good jokes, words of wisdom that you might have. And I want to let you know that tomorrow's morning show, is canceled, or should I say moved. We're not doing a morning stream. We're not doing an evening stream. We are only doing an afternoon stream. It's 12:45 Central Standard Time.
We're only doing
time.
a Hester stream.
We're only doing a Hester stream, and we're gonna after we have our 45 minutes with Hester, we are probably gonna take a very short break, and then we'll come for your reactions. Hop back on because we want to know what you think about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did she say everything you hope she would? Did it shock you? So stay tuned for that. We will post about it in the Discord. It'll be here on TikTok. It'll be here on YouTube, Twitter, Unlonely, wherever you're getting your Rise Up Morning Show goodness today. And if you want to find the links for the sources you're not getting, hop in the Discord, or visit the riseupmorningshow.com, and you can find that all there. So, fellas, got any final thoughts?
A final thought will just be one I shared earlier today, which is, in the crypto space, for those of you who are been here for a while, like us, maybe even longer, or you're new, we want to create an environment that is accepting to all political ideologies, race, gender, country, thoughts and people, right, to come into the crypto space. Because crypto is meant for everybody, right? It's the best tool out there to increase access to have financial freedom, right? Faster, better, cheaper, a money system for everyone, right? That improves everyone's lives. And we only expand those doors by letting everybody come in. Maybe people who we disagree with viscerally, right? But let's create an environment where we can bring all these people in, because that is the moral thing to do to help the most people possible. But also at the same time, we're all financially incentivized to do that too. The more people in here, the more money in here, the harder our bags pump, the bigger the total market cap of the cryptocurrency space is. So, if you ever feel the need to rag on someone because they're a Democrat or a Republican, or they're from the north, or you're from the south, they're blah, 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 whatever reason, right? That divides people amongst tribal lines. Let's try not to do that in the crypto space, because we can bring in so many people, help people, create a better world, and pump our bags more too, which is a nice thing. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well said. Well said. I wish I had the Alex sound that says, "I am a big fan of this," because I would have had about 3 times. I am a big fan of this. Alex, what about you? You got a final thought?
I think well, there was one great question, Evan, that did roll in, was, Evan, who are these people?
Who are these people? I was going to address it with my final thought, but take it, man. Who are you? And how did you get here?
That's Will, depending on where you're watching.
Yeah.
I'm Alex. We do other crypto things. I think that the three of us together cover, I would say, most of the niches of the industry, at least somewhat. And we do this show together, and so you should follow all of us, because we are
really
the Trident. Final thoughts? No, not really today. I am just super excited for tomorrow. So bear with us as we are all traveling. Like Evan said, we do not have a morning show tomorrow or an evening show tomorrow. We're consolidating the whole thing into an afternoon show. And what we're planning on, fingers crossed, is that we will go live at 12:45 Central Standard Time. The timestamp will be posted in Discord, and it will be displayed in your local time. So when you look at our announcement for the stream, which we will put up shortly, the time that it says is the time for you. So don't worry about converting it into something else. We do a fancy little thing in Discord where whenever you look at the time, it displays in your local time. So don't worry about it. There will also not be an evening stream tomorrow. We will all be on our various routes traveling home. Stay tuned for Thursday morning. Will, I know you said you will probably go live Thursday, so expect that the morning show on Thursday it will be hosted on Will's profile this week, and it may just be Will, depending on where we all are in our travels. Evan and I are both driving home. I have a bit of a beefy drive, and I'm not sure if I'll make it back in time, / if I will be conscious.
It's just you, me, and this casting couch behind me.
God.
And that's just bullshit.
And there we go. Anyway. But no, just thanks for hanging out with us this week. It's a little unconventional, but I could not be more excited. So I didn't even finish my thought, ADHD. The stream tomorrow with Hester in the afternoon will replace both of the episodes, but then immediately following that, our plan is to wrap up with her, say our goodbyes, thank her profusely, all that good stuff, and then step aside and find a spot where we can pop back on for a quick debrief live stream, very informal, where we'll just sort of get our immediate thoughts out. And if anyone in there would like to talk to us more directly following the stream with Hester, you can do that, because of course the chat will not really be monitored very well during the interview. But I encourage you to save super important comments or whatever for the follow-up stream where we get to debrief everything. And then if you have important things that you want to not be lost, instead of putting them in the chat during the stream with Hester, please put them in Discord. Otherwise, there is a good chance we might lose them, just because we will not be able to watch the chat on TikTok quite as thoroughly as we are, if at all. So just bear with us, but I could not be more excited. And thank you all,
and please,
for making
if you're one of our friends who's going to be here, do us a favor, if you would, and help the folks in chat. Let them know, these guys aren't just a bunch of jerks who are ignoring you. They're
help us keep the conversation going in the chat by being as brilliant as you guys always are. And my final thought is just thank you to all of you guys, because we would not have the platform with which Hester and her people would have agreed to talk to us and come on if we didn't have all of you guys here supporting the show every single day. And so that really does mean a lot, because the bigger and better this gets, the more things like this interview with Hester we can do. So
yeah, we all say that this is the most trusted source of helpful news, commentary, live education in crypto, and it's because of you, because of your trust, and it's an honor of a lifetime for sure.
It is.
Second only to getting to hang out with you guys. If Will's casting couch enters the picture, I might be that might be bumped down to third. I have to say. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love you all. We got to go before I say something that's going to get us in more trouble.
Yes. Before the two of you continue to couch it up, we need to end the stream for all
Not
these
ideal.
beautiful people.
Yes. So tune into the Discord. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for being the best part of what we do. We will be in the chat and we will be back tomorrow. Find Discord for the timestamps. And until then, my friends, as always, rise up.
Bye-bye.
And YouTube.